All right, on this episode of the show, we've got Alec Marshall. We're talking about Peel.com. We're talking about over the top TV and some of his favorite shows over on Over the Top TV. That is next. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here, and we got a great guest on today. He was he launched the iTunes Store. He helped launch the iTunes Store. He then was the social marketing and education division at Apple. He did the social and content teams for Adobe, and then went over to Roku, and now he's with his group back again over at a company called Peel.com. We have here Alec Marshall. How you doing today?
Hey, Jeffrey, I'm doing great. Thanks very much.
Now, tell us a little bit about Peel.com. First of all, it's basically old Apple iTunes people that are in this website called Peel.com, correct?
A bunch of us were, yeah. We worked together in the iTunes Store team, and then after the launch of the store, a bunch of us went, obviously separate ways. And about middle of the year last year, we kind of got the team back together and started on this. But the idea was that interfaces in TV have become difficult. Channels are irrelevant to the audiences. Networks are hard because they're swapping shows left and right. And then the sources they're multiplying and getting more and more confusing. So now you've got a ton of remotes and you don't have any idea where your favorite shows are. And so the process is becoming difficult.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I go through my Roku, I go through my Boxy, and I'm just sitting there wondering where my channels are, where the good content is, and week to week that can change. Just last week, they had the NHL network come onto Roku, which was great, but you have to be up on that, and you have to go back into the channel search and find the channel and go from there. So how does Peel.com deal with that?
Well, we look at it from an interface perspective. Two of the guys that we are working with were the interface designers in the iTunes team and in the iApps division. And so everything that they look at is from a perspective of user experience. And so when you sit down and you turn on the TV, what are you looking for? You're looking for your shows. And so our interface is designed, number one, to bring the shows. The next part about it is we just announced the control system today. So that allows you, or will allow you once it's shipping, to be able to find your shows and then hit a button and your entertainment center switches over and everything comes on and the show starts. So everything goes back to what the user wants, which is to watch his shows, regardless of source, regardless of channel, regardless of whether it's on or anything like that.
So basically, they pull it up on their iPhone, their iPod Touch, and then tell people what they like for shows, right?
Exactly. It learns what you like based on your watching habits and your preferences. And then from there, it actually is a universal remote control and will your entertainment system.
And does that work with different types of boxes, like a Roku box and a Boxy box?
So far, it's working on the control side of those, and it's not integrating online content. But given our frustration with the live TV interface, you can imagine our frustration with the variety of sources that are out there. So that's definitely the site.
All right. So I got to ask you this question. What's your favorite box to watch content on?
I love my Roku.
You do that. What did you do over at Roku when you were there?
I was director of partner marketing when I was over there. And so I worked a lot with Netflix. I worked with Hulu. I worked with sports networks. And once we developed a channel, making sure that our customers were aware of it and that their customers were aware of the experience of watching it on Roku.
Oh, okay. What's the favorite thing for Roku right now?
What's the favorite?
The one thing that you turn on your Roku to actually get content for?
I'm still a huge Netflix fan.
Okay.
The instant library on Netflix last, but I'm thrilled that they were able to launch Hulu Plus just recently.
That's cool. That's cool. Of course, with the other TV systems coming out there, the Google TV, the Apple TV, the Boxy, we also have like Popbox. I know last year ran into a company called New, and they were doing set top box. Just amazing stuff out in that market. Now, it leads me to my next question for you. Have you cut your conventional cable?
I I haven't, but I only haven't out of a professional need. So I'm working with live TV on a regular basis, and so the reason I keep it is actually to see what's wrong with it from day to day. Now, on the flip side, I've had an Apple TV for well ever since they launched. I had one of the very first ones, and at Peel, we're really close with Apple and are closely tied to the development. So we're watching the space really carefully because I think that the the ways that the companies are coming about it are reflective of the ways that they've always addressed things. And Google's bringing it in, they're addressing it on an active basis and searching. Apple's coming in and making a beautiful interface and simplifying things. And so it's really interesting what is the TV screen with all of these new sources.
You cut out on that last part. Can you say that again?
On the last part, I find it really interesting what's happening to the TV screen based on all of these different sources that are available. I think that the tough part about that is the where people are wanting to experience the content is that TV screen, and as that uh, as that turns around, it's tougher and tougher to have all of these different interfaces sitting.
Yeah, that's true. Do you see the content becoming part of the box or part of the TV more, or will people continue to watch through a Roku box or a box or a separate device like that?
That's tough to say. And if you take a look at history, there's there's precedence for these kinds of movements. And so if you look in software, it's moved from hard media to stored media to streamed media. Music has done the same. It's moved from hard media to stored media streamed. And so I would expect TV to follow in the footsteps. And the tough part about it is whether it becomes another box or whether it becomes a part of TVs comes down to standards and the competitive natures of the TV space. Basically, in all of these interfaces, the piece that has been lost is the user. And the fact that each one of them wants to be the key interface means that they're leading with their own kinds of ideas. And, on the flip side, from a mass market perspective, when people are sitting back and watching TV, all they want are their shows. And they're thrilled with the amount of choice that's there, but they're intimidated by the selection and the control of that choice.
Could
So
it could it be more the fact that they have to choose and then they have to watch and then when they're done watching, they have to choose again?
I think that's entirely true, especially as you take a look at the different content sources that are available on different boxes. And so if I say, okay, let's say I'm a fan of Crackle, and so I go to Roku to watch Crackle, but I like the interface for Apple TV's Netflix, then I have to switch over sources and access my Netflix there. And then if I want to watch sports and I wanted to switch over to live TV, then I have to go into a cable box and access it there. And so that becomes difficult, scary, actually, for a lot of consumers.
Oh, okay. What would be the one thing that you would think would happen in the next year for over-the-top television?
Uh, I think it's going to become more mainstream. As it becomes more mainstream, then the ways that you interact with it will become nearer. And the way that I look at that is all of the different interfaces and all of the different standards for them need to come together. And I see that happening in the near term. I think that um, the same thing that happened in music will happen in TV, in that you'll have a few major players and larger leaders inside of this space.
Do you see any major networks or anything like that? I mean, we have Interestingly enough, we have NBC that blocks for Google TV, but then you can still get CNBC content on Google TV, which just pretty much points to me as they need to have the proper contracts signed. But is there? Do you see a major network decide, hey, this is going to be the thing, and go from there?
I totally agree with you. And the at the end of the day, the pathway that we're creating is from the content creators to the content consumers. And the shortest pathway is the way that things are always found. In there right now, we have the content creators, then we have distributors, then we have networks, and then we have the major pipelines, and then we have the sub pipelines and MSOs, and then we have the devices, and then we have the TVs. There's such an opportunity for shortening that that pathway that you're going to see a lot of attention in this space. And one of the places that the places are paying attention, or the companies are paying attention to now, is on the boxes and devices. In my opinion, though, more attention needs to be played on the interfaces for those devices and the software that's controlling all of this, rather than the hardware.
Now, the one thing that I like about you talked about the software and the controlling it. The one thing that I liked about Boxy was the fact that it was easy to actually create content for that. In fact, my show, I just needed to know an XML file, and I had a show up there. Ease of use. Some of these Roku has the software development kit. The ease of use for some of these boxes, will that become the hindrance, or will that become the golden key for some of this content?
That's it. That one's a really tough question because on one side, information wants to be open. And so if you look at it with an internet model in mind, then content creation falls down towards independent creators. And if you look at Facebook, everybody has the opportunity to create and publish at this point. On the flip side, there are major content owners who are spending tons and tons of money to create compelling content. And they are going to control the pathways that content's distributed in order to make the most kind of returns and the best distribution quality for those. And so there's a balance there between something like Boxy, which is super easy to pay for creation, Roku, which is a fairly easy one, but is channel oriented, and Apple, which has a closed system. So all of those are philosophy based rather than technology based.
All right, you did cut out again during that really nice speech, so I'm going to have you do it again. And then just anytime we go through something like that, I'm just going to cut it and then paste it together, so we don't have this middle here. So if you can remember exactly what you just said, that would be great.
I hope I can. So refresh me on the question.
The Boxy, the applications. You have the golden key, or is it ease of use to create content for?
Right, and so that's what I was, in coming back, it really takes a peek at the philosophy of the model that you're going to look at. If you look at the internet as a model, then content creators want to be open. And so right now, if you look at Facebook, everybody has the opportunity to create. I can share pictures, I can share videos, I can create it, I can publish it, I can have millions of people take a look at it. On the flip side, you have huge content owners who are spending a lot of money to create compelling content and then get it distributed in the most profitable and highest quality way. And that follows a different sort of philosophy than an open content. And so I think that each one of the systems calls balance along that way. And so on Bhakti, they have a really simple content creation piece, but it's not necessarily at a perfect distribution model like HBO.com. Yeah. At the end of the day, remember, the content comes across a pipeline. If they don't want us getting it out there, we aren't going to get it out there.
All right, that's perfect. You talked about Apple being the closed walled garden. You talked about companies like HBO. Stars is already out in that space. trying to get that market share. And well, of course, these aren't regular 24/7 channels like a TBS or NBC or anything like that. So they're moving their business model, and is a lot easier than us moving, or somebody like TBS moving theirs, because you have to deal with sports channels, you have to deal with advertisers, you have to deal with legal content and stuff like that. So I totally understand that. Um, but my next question, I almost lost my next question here. My next question is, we're going to move on a little bit on using these boxes as a web delivered content. Do you think that then there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of hype, or not hype, but concern that people are not using this as a computer? What are your thoughts? Do you want this to become your computer, or do you want your computer to be your computer and this to be your entertainment system?
Well, I mean, there's kind of a long history in this, in the computer trying to be on TV. I think that changing TV into a computer is a model that doesn't really fit with the patterns that most of us use when we watch TV. You essentially sit back for 3 or 4 hours a day and have content fed to you. When you are on a computer, it's an interactive process, and there's the back and forth, and there's kind of a different model there. And nothing so far has penetrated that experience and gotten customers to want to change their behavior. One of the things that I think is different here is computers are getting smarter, getting more user-friendly, and they're getting more intelligent about delivering content that people want. And as you look at that, that's a completely different model from the old web TV, and even from what Google TV is doing. It's a passive delivery piece, and that maps more towards a smarter TV set than a computer on the top. So my impressions are the landscape of TVs become smarter and smarter at delivering the kind of content that you want, and delivering an interface for interacting with that content that'll be a much better experience than any kind of computer on TV experience.
Do you have a favorite show or anything like that you can that you watch that's not on standard TV?
Best show ever is Arrested Development.
And of course, you get that on Hulu, and you can get that on Netflix and stuff like that. Anything web content created, that's on a over the top TV box.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of current TV. I think that the snippets that they're using and the independent nature of it are fascinating.
Perfect. And then we got Peel.com. It's over at Peel.com. It's for your iPhone. Is it also for an Android phone or any other platforms?
We are developing towards other platforms, but we haven't announced any yet.
Oh, okay.
And Android is obviously on that landscape.
All right, perfect. Well, Alec, thank you very much for your time. The website's Peel.com. Check it out when you can, and let's get together and talk down the road a little bit more in the future.
Absolutely, anytime, Jeffrey. Thanks so much.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Alec.
Right, bye-bye.
And that is it for the show. My name is Jeffrey Powers.